Your next performer is a writer, comedian, molecular biologist. He's the author of the book Surviving Your Stupid Decision to Go to Grad School, a blogger for the journal Visualize Experiments, and writes a monthly humor column called Experimental Error in the AAAS publication Science Careers. He's appeared on the Food Network's Food Detectives, the Science Channel's Head Rush, and currently co-hosts Discovery's Outrageous Acts of Science. Please welcome Adam Ruben.
Thank you. Of all the strangely apt jokes for Cody to have ended on right before I got up here, because this is absolutely true, what I was going to tell you guys at the beginning was that thank you all for turning your cell phones off, but I'm leaving mine on, and I will answer it if it rings because my wife is supposed to give birth tomorrow. Thank you. And so I don't want you to think that I'm setting up some joke where later in the setting I have a friend call my phone and pretend it's my wife. No, that's actually possibly going to happen. So if my phone rings, I'm answering it, and I might leave in the middle. So let's hope she keeps her legs together for 10 more minutes, and we'll all be fine. But yes, and I'm backstage, I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to tell him about my wife giving birth, and then Cody says, and so fetuses. I'm like, oh no. I'm going to think I'm following up to that. So I am a scientist, I'm a molecular biologist. How many people here are actually scientists? Not just science writers, but people working in science? A lot of people, wow. So I don't know the reason you went into science. I think a lot of people went into science for the same reason that I did, which is that we were all lied to. And you remember this too. We were lied to by that guy who comes into your class in 3rd grade, and he's wearing a lab coat, and he's got a bucket of liquid nitrogen, and a banana, and he dips the banana in liquid nitrogen and smashes it on the table, and all the kids are like, oh my god, that's what science is? Science is awesome! Well, now we know, don't we? It's not quite like that. I figured out the other day, all I do in my job as a molecular biologist is I move small amounts of liquid from one place to another. That's it. You know, it's not like they promised us it was going to be. I keep waiting for my PI to come in the lab and say, all right, here's the situation. All we've got are 10 plastic drinking straws and a meter of Scotch tape. Now we have to build a device that'll let us throw this egg out the 4th story window without it breaking. Or they won't renew our NSF grant. Thank you. Did you guys have to do that project when you were a kid, the egg drop project? Why is that so universal? What the hell is that supposed to teach you? Gravity? Still working. We had that project in 4th grade, but we were allowed to use any materials we wanted to keep the egg from breaking. So I remember I just wrapped my egg in like 30 or 40 additional eggs. The whole thing out the window, kids are like, hey, your egg broke. Nope, my egg was that one. Which is very similar to how we do science today, isn't it? So what do you do once you have your degree? Well, as Kasha mentioned, one of the first things I did after I got my PhD was that I was on a show called Food Detectives on the Food Network. Did anybody watch the show? One person, maybe two, and that's why it was canceled. It was like Mythbusters about food science. So Ted Allen hosted, the guy who hosts Chopped. Well, he had 2 shows, and Chopped was his successful show, and I was on the other one. And it was weird because that was kind of like my big reward. I spent 7 years getting a PhD in molecular biology, and then I was the nation's foremost expert on the 5-second rule of dropping food on the floor. So if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, don't eat food off the floor. How was that? It was not a very cerebral show. They actually used to call me when they were thinking of ideas for episodes and ask science questions, and I think I must have been the only scientist they'd ever met, and that's why they put me on the show. So they would call and say things like, we want to do something about intestinal gas. Can we feed beans to bacteria and film them farting? Now, well, what kind of camera would we need? This is absolutely true. The producer, this guy Danny, I told him he had to buy an incubator to grow bacteria for something. I think we were testing like plastic cutting boards versus wooden cutting boards. And he emailed me the specs of this incubator, and he said, I think this is going to be really good. And I called him up. I said, yeah, that looks good. You should buy that. He said, great, because the guy who's selling it to me, he says it's a really good incubator. He says it holds temperature in Fahrenheit and Celsius. Yes, thank you for understanding what's wrong with that. Because no one at the Food Network did. I should have said, send it back. I need one that can do kelvins. And you know how many people at the Food Network would have understood what kelvins are? Absolutely zero. Oh, okay. Yes. That joke does not work in Baltimore. Here we are. When I first started doing stand-up, I was living in Baltimore, and I was going to these like wretched comedy clubs where people would start booing as soon as they say college. And you know what I had when I got up there the first few times? Math puns. That was it. My whole routine was full of math puns. And because it's you guys tonight, I think I want to say some of them. Which I don't ordinarily do. But I like them so much. So this, and you have to remember, I actually went up in front of audiences at midnight in downtown Baltimore with this. You know how some mouthwash contains alcohol? Well, I was wondering what the alcohol content was of my mouthwash, so I looked, but it didn't say on the label. I guess the proof was beyond the text of this scope. Yeah, Mike, seriously, right? How do they know? Just one more, because I'm so proud of this one too. Because this was, how many people here are children of the 80s? Okay, well you guys all remember the Transformers. This is a calculus joke about the Transformers. Okay, but do you remember this rip-off toy called the GoBots? Yes! They're like a rip-off of Transformers. There were also robots that became cars and things. So I just started thinking, if the GoBots were derivative of the Transformers, does that mean their leader was Optimus Double Prime? Oh! Yeah, Baltimore. So as Kasha also mentioned, I wrote this book called Surviving Your Stupid Decision to Go to Grad School. I wrote it about my time in grad school. And I actually will be selling the book after the show tonight, right over there at the table where I'm sitting. It's only $10. It makes a wonderful gift for that special grad student in your life. It's $12 in stores. Oh, wow. It's $9.60 on Amazon. Oh, shit. Let's all pretend. So one of the fun things that I've gotten to do after writing the book is I've actually spent the last few years traveling around to different grad schools and talking to groups of grad students, which is great. I just got back from UCSD and Michigan State last month, and I think one of the weirdest ones that I did was right here in DC. I was at Catholic University. Yes, there are grad students at Catholic University, and before performing, this is completely true, they said I had to sign this form that said that I promise that I will not espouse any values during my performance that are counter to those of the Catholic Church. Yeah. And I said, you know, I don't think I'm going to, but like, I mean, what would happen if I did? And the guy said, well, you could actually get in trouble with the bishop. Like, really? What's the bishop gonna do to me? He can only move diagonal. I mean, come on. He's on a black square, I move to a white square, we're fine. You say you're sending your queen, they got some problems. No queens at Catholic University. I think another one of the really fun shows I got to do was just this May. I was at the, some of you may have even been there, the Medical Library Association conference in Chicago. You're not that kind of science writer, fine. Like, no, we write about science for the public. Let scientists write about, okay, well, the Medical Library Association. And somebody there told me, I had no idea, there's a new journal, a new scientific journal, and this is true, it's called the Journal of Negative Results in Biomedicine. It's a journal only for experiments that have failed. Like, where was this during my grad school time? And I thought, wow, that's neat, but it's just negative results in biomedicine. They don't have it for other subjects. I was wondering why they don't. Well, it makes sense. Like, the Journal of Negative Results in Zoology is just called We Didn't See Animals. The Journal of Negative Results in Homeopathy is the whole field of homeopathy. The Journal of Negative Results in Young Earth Creationism is called Thought. So, No. So I didn't really like grad school. There's some things that I think I hated more than others. One of them was having to administer exams. How many people here survived grad school with me? Administering exams to undergrads is the worst. That is the worst thing. All you do is you walk around a room for 3 hours and you just stare at them and you wonder who's cheating, but you know they're all cheating. And you just answer the same question over and over again. They raise their hands like, yeah? I can't answer that for you. I can't, and they think they're being coy. They're like, oh, the way number 7 is worded, is it B? Well, I can't answer that. We used to place bets on how many cheaters we would catch during an exam. That's how we kept ourselves entertained. We called it Procter and Gamble. I'm just so happy to be here tonight, not in Baltimore. It's so much better. I think the worst thing about grad school, though, I was a lab teaching assistant. I was a TA in biochemistry lab. How many people here were lab TAs at some point? A few. Nothing is worse than having to grade lab reports written by undergrads. It's the worst. So here's every lab report I got in biochemistry. Results. I got no usable data. I wouldn't have known what to do with it anyway. I spilled every liquid you gave me, and my lab partner caught fire. Conclusions. Overall, this lab was a success. Who is teaching them that sentence? Why does every undergrad start every lab report with overall this lab was a success? I had a student who did that on every single lab report. He got a C- in the class. At the end of the semester, he asked me, how'd I do? I told him, well, overall, your grade was a success. I probably deserved all those bad lab reports because I did something not so nice to the students on the first day. And remember, I should tell you, this is at Johns Hopkins, and these are pre-meds who take biochemistry. And pre-meds are the most anal creatures on the planet. They have to get 100% on everything, or they're not going to get into med school. So they're so fearful on the first day they're going to get a bad TA, and they're not going to understand the class. So on the first day of lab class, I just walked in like this.
All right, I'll make sure my hands are.
Hello. I am TA. You don't know biochemistry. I don't know English. We learn from each other this semester. Oh, they hated that. So before I go, I want to make sure that we've had a whole night of jokes about science, but I want to make sure that we don't neglect our other tiny little friends in the humanities, because Sorry. Oh, that's right, science writers, and so okay, fine. I didn't think about that part. I didn't think you might be coming at it from the other side. The nice thing about grad school in general, and that's true for whatever subject that you take, is you get to pick one subject that you like and just study that, right? It's not like college where you have to take distribution requirements and learn all kinds of things you really have no interest in. Like in my school, we had a foreign language requirement, which, I mean, ordinarily I like learning languages. I'm actually learning Hindi right now, because I got a Dell, and comes with the territory. We'll see what Kasha says about that when she comes back on stage. But no, I was annoyed because they didn't offer the language I wanted to take. That was the problem. Because I remember I walked into the registrar's office and I said, "Hi, I would like to sign up for Pig Latin." And I know, the woman there gives me this look. She goes, "We don't offer Pig Latin." I said, "Why not?" She says, "Nobody speaks Pig Latin." So I told her, "How na isenle irhe? I way abe imbe ingte igpe adle unifle inspire I uske abe agde I need orfe ambe esente esfe ambe openene isnga unga apse imme ambe ingte eskorske especially uye yucking fey itch bay. What? So I ended up taking French. You know what I really didn't like about French? I think there are two things: the textbook and the workbook. Because we always got this textbook that was like 30 years out of date, had vocabulary you're never going to need, La Discotheque. Why was that in there? There are no discotheques. The 8-track. That's actually the French word, track. But the workbook was worse, and this is true of any foreign language workbook, because the workbook had to pretend that every exercise in it was a whole lot of fun. Remember, so say things like, you are at a party where everyone is speaking in the future indicative. That's a realistic scenario, don't you think? Well, you think they have parties like that in France? What do you want to do tonight, Jean-Luc? I don't know, Jacques, I thought we could go to the cinema. Or perhaps a discotheque. Or, oh, there is this great party where everyone speaks in the future indicative. Sacre bleu, the future indicative. We will go to this party. Well, thank you guys so much. My name is Adam Ruben, and my wife did not give birth during my set.